Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. It is the squad announcement press conference for our senior women's national team, the Reggae Girls, as they face Mexico in two friendly internationals in the United States coming up April 5 and April 8. April 5 in Kansas City, April 8 in Houston, Texas. And we're looking forward to these games as the Reggae Girls continue to build ahead of the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup qualifiers. The last time, of course, that we would have faced Mexico actually came in the CONCACAF W Championship in 2022 when we defeated Mexico by 1 goal to nil. So, firstly, before announcing the squad, we're going to have some opening remarks from head coach of the Reggae Girls, Hubert Busby, and then we'll, of course, get into the squad and, of course, questions from members of the media. So, we now head over to Coach. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Simon. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. Just before we go into announcing the squad, just want to congratulate Coach McLaren and his staff and the boys, of course, for qualification to the Gold Cup this summer. So well done to everyone involved. Also want to wish our U18 girls, we're heading for a small little tournament in Turkey. Want to wish the staff and the players good luck and safe travels there as well. So um, another busy times with everything going on at the federation, but just want to acknowledge those groups and the good work that everyone's doing.
All right, Coach, now you can proceed and go ahead in relation to what's been happening the past couple of weeks since the Peru games, and then we can get into the squad.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had two games in Peru. Again, like everything else, we're always going to have some challenging circumstances involving the game. But again, it's one of the reasons why we're really adamant about going there. Credit to the players. You know, as most people would know, Lima is a city of 10 million people. So getting to and from games, round trip for training, sometimes with over an hour and a half, and but the Peruvian FA was really good to us. But it really the games were about providing us opportunity in conditions or environments that we may face in Central America, and so we're very deliberate in how we go about setting these games as it pertains to us and how we need to go about winning, World Cup qualifying matches in conditions that sometimes aren't favorable. So again, we didn't have a whole lot of time, but we were able to really look to implement and continue to build on our playing model. I think obviously, the first game for those who saw, I think we controlled the game well. I think at times we needed to manage the game a little bit more, but really pleased in terms of getting the two results and finding a way to do so. I think the last game was really, pleasing for us to see the depth and the players that we have coming through, where we ended the match with 9 college players on the pitch for an international match, and probably the average age was been around 21, 22 years of age. So good to see those players get the experience that was needed. And again, above everything else, when you're playing these matches, you have to get results. And so, we got off to a great start, kind of had to weather the storm a bit, but you have to in international matches. But credit to the players and credit to the staff. We were able to get that game over the edge, over the line rather. So last couple of weeks, lots of injuries on the team front. Just monitoring the players. Again, through Y Scout, I haven't been able with the short window get on a plane to watch anyone in this short window, but we have been able to monitor the games from afar and keep in contact with those players. But again, for the ones in Europe, it's coming down to crunch time. Players seem to be doing really well in their environments, but again, the injury plug at this time of year seems to be running rampant, not just for us, but throughout football as well. So that's led to some challenges. We've had to work through those things, but again, when these things happen, it provides another opportunity for players to come in and stake a claim, and that's what we're hoping happens this window as well. So, yeah, we'll continue to work hard. We'll continue to do what we need to do with the World Cup qualifiers on the horizon, but we continue to make progress And again, as we always say, it's not about perfection, but it is about progression.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. What I'll do now is I'll put the graphic of the squad on the screen, and you can go into the selections and also some explanations of perhaps a couple of players that have missed out. So here we go, and you can proceed again now, Coach.
Thanks, Simon. The goalkeepers, Sydney Snyder comes back into the group. The last camp, Sydney was finalizing a deal in the window with the Tampa Bay Sun of the Super League, so she was unavailable while she finalized and did her medical then, so she was out. Um, and so she will come back into the goalkeeping group. Um, Allison Swaby, Nair Cardoza, Chantel Swaby, Conja Plummer as the back line. We've brought in Jaylee McPherson from the U20s, the captains from the U20s. I think she was a bright light. Um, Obviously in a disappointing qualifying campaign for what we wanted to do, but credit to the group. There were some players who stood out and did some really good things, and she was one of them. I've had the privilege of going up and watching some of the trainings the last few months and monitoring that U20 group closely. So I've been able to see her as well as some other players do well, and I think that she would probably do well or she's earned the opportunity to come into this group. And as we always said, we want to provide a defined pathway for our young players to come into the senior team. So she does that by coming in to the defending back line. Midfielders, Sade Alukin comes in, Drew Spence, Denisha Blackwood, Vi Sampson comes back in from Japan, where she was just getting ready to start her season over there. So she comes back in for us, along with Jade Bailey, Tiffany Cameron, Paige Bailey, who's coming back as well, has shown better in the last few weeks in Germany. So she's deserved a shot coming back in. Jody Brown, Shania Hales has been having a good season with Newcastle. Rihanna Blades has done well in the last camp. She comes in. Veteran Kayla McKenna, Trudy Carter, who's coming back to full fitness from her time in Spain. Um, Chanel Buckley, who continues to impress really well. Obviously, she's at Daytona College, but every time we bring her in, she does an excellent job. And Cameron Simmons, along with Tiffany Cameron, provide extreme versatility as players who can play in several lines. Not quite sure where they'll be, but their versatility allows for us to possibly play them in the back line or the front line, depending on what the game needs. So that's sort of the squad. Obviously, noticeably, you all know Bunny is out. She's been out for a few weeks, so we continue to send her support and hope that she's back on the pitch soon. Shiv Wilson as well is another one who sort of misses out through injury recently. So, but again, it's part of football. We have to be able to bring in some new or bring in other players when other players go down. So those are some of the last ones. Probably some noticeable ones who have been sort of not regulars, but some mainstays in the last few camps who are out. So yeah, looking forward to these two games versus Mexico. Another really quality opposition for us to play against in two different cities, which will could pose from a climate standpoint very different challenges as well. So as we all know, Mexico playing in the U.S. is kind of most times like a home match for them. So another hostile environment, I'm sure, that we'll have to deal with. But again, another one that's going to put us in good stead come World Cup qualifying.
All right, thank you very much, Coach. Much appreciated there for the comprehensive breakdown of the squad. Members of the media, this is now your opportunity as well. We kindly ask you to raise your hand and indicate your question towards Coach Busby. So we'll start this morning with Bertram Spence. Good morning. You can unmute and go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Coach. Two questions, Coach, which is what Simon allows me. Given this stark difference in footballing standards and support system between Jamaica and the more industrialized nations, and given the war for talent in football, which is ever increasing, which I would class between the developing world and the more industrialized world, who have much better infrastructure, how do you make a compelling case to players and their family that choosing Jamaica is not just an emotional decision, but one that offers real development, competitive value, and opportunity?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, there's two parts to it as you sort of alluded to. I think there's the emotional side, right? And only those families we all go through on why you have that attachment, right? And so, they'll speak to those things. And when we go through this process, I think it's important that people know that we do go through a vetting process when we bring new players on and go through a Zoom. Sometimes it's with them, sometimes with their agents, sometimes with their family members to kind of understand why Jamaica, and they speak about it as well. So there's an attachment of why they want to play for Jamaica. The second thing is, which is consistently ongoing, is why it's also beneficial for them going forward. And we've had to deal with that in the last few weeks as well. Is that financial aspects aside, and I think we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. Um, us, all that we can do is put them in the best spotlight so that they can benefit from that, and that means can we play these high profile matches that allow for them to be on the world stage, that allows for them to get whatever the marketing, whatever opportunities will come, but also allows for us to raise the profile of us as a Jamaican women's national team to catapult us into that next stratosphere or next sort of group to be in the top 30, which is where we're currently outside of now. So there's two different sides to that. One for us, what really focus on is the technical and making sure that we're winning football matches. But it is a challenge because we don't have those financial resources to compensate players per match like some of the other countries. But there's other opportunities that we can make up those gaps possibly to do so by doing different things. And then the last one, as you sort of alluded to as well, is just the reality is there's got to be an attachment. There's got to be a reason why, because no one's playing for the national team just for financial reasons, right? So I think if we can have that in a that all come together, then I think we're on the right pathway. And just to finish off that note, including again this morning, I always say this: like, there's not a day that doesn't go by where I don't get a text message from an agent, a parent, or players, especially the young ones, indicating their interest in playing for Jamaica at under the U20 level. So we're clearly doing something that's attracting these players to the program, and we just have to continue to raise the bar to ensure that this is a place they want to be. So, and then I think you had a second question.
Well, I have much more than a second, but Coach, here's the second one, Coach. In a number of press conferences, sorry, you've spoken about the vertical alignment with the Reggae Boyz. Can you expand upon this, what does it entail, and your dialogue and engagement with Coach McLaren?
Yeah, I think I've kind of always had a really good relationship with all the men's coaches going back. I think, you look at someone like Sanford Carabin, who came in and worked alongside both programs. He came in with us and went across both programs. So there's always those sort of discussions also with a little bit with staff. As far as has come in, I had a kind of a pre-existing, a little bit relationship with Steve during COVID when he did work for FIFA. They'd kind of interviewed us about the program, and so I'd kind of known him from before, and we obviously had some discussions. And when he come on board, we really sat down to kind of figure out how we could come together. That there is alignment, especially in terms of whether it be scouting tools, whether it be equipment, or it be how we go about the sort of playing models that are very much aligned. So when we were in England, full disclosure, we met with them. What was supposed to be sort of a 2 hour meeting with him and his staff and Richard and Trevor and everyone else turned out to be close to a 4.5 hour meeting where we just had a good conversation about CONCACAF, things to look in when you come and play in CONCACAF and things to obviously to understand that he had a good understanding of from his previous dialogues and doing the FIFA report. So we had to just sat down to see where we can make sure that even from a budgetary perspective, there's things that we want from our program that they want from our program allows for us to work in unison to keep costs low, but to also ensure that we're also advocating for both programs to get the best that we can get. And so yeah, we speak or we communicate. We was in town last week or the week prior before that, before camp. Met with him and his staff to make sure that anything that we can do to support, anything they can do likewise. So there's a lot of conversation in terms of how we want to go about supporting these teams. And there's things that we can do that aligns again, from a equipment standpoint or scouting standpoint that we can help with, then we're able to do so. So there's a lot of alignment there in terms of how we want to play, but really it's just making sure that we are supportive of all the programs and we're supportive. Those are the ones that are coming through below us as well.
So Simon has allowed me to ask one more question, Coach. I
Okay.
pulled his leg.
Right.
It's a more tactical question.
Okay.
So when you and Coach McLaren have gone through and done all your due diligence and recruited players, sometimes there's a challenge to get them over the line in terms of passport and citizenship. Can you give us an update on the passport process for Taylor Hines and Natasha Thomas?
Yeah, it's ongoing. And again, everyone knows it is a challenge. And I don't, people are more experienced in that line can speak on that process, but it's a day-to-day process, including today trying to figure out where things are. But it's not for the lack of the players and trying to get it done. It's in the process of getting done. Some of these matches allow for citizenship. Some of them allow for passport. Again, in full disclosure, and that's where sometimes there's a disconnect in why they're playing some matches and they can't. But we really want to make sure that we get those things over the line, especially with qualifying on the horizon. I don't know where they are on the boys' side with some of those. I'm not necessarily privy to where they are, but I do know the challenges still exist for us to get some of these passports done and completed in a timely fashion so that they can represent their country. So I know the powers that be are doing what they can, but sometimes they're just caught up in dare I say red tape and they're just not moving fast enough. At least not for us as coaches liking. I'm pretty sure they think they're doing a fast job, but for us it's not nearly as fast as we would want. But that's again, in full transparency, that's just where it's at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Spence. Appreciate it. Lennox Aldred, good morning.
Hi, morning. Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Coach, just a little, I would like you to elaborate a little bit more. Have you been in touch with Man City regarding Bunny Shaw's injury, or you're doing your own assessment with your medical team to know when she'll be good to go again?
No, I think really what we do is we go through the proper channels, right? It's through medical. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, and as a commercial says, I don't try to play one on TV as well, right? So I leave it to my medical doctor that she gets in contact with their medical teams and provides that information. And obviously, for the most part, that other than her being injured and out is kept private for the most part, and rightfully so. And so she just knows, and they know that we support the process they have. She's in good hands. She's in one of the best clubs in the world. So we have to abide by what they're looking to do and support her the best we can the way we have, both from a medical perspective and an emotional perspective. She knows that we're here for her, and when she's ready to play and she's ready to come back on the pitch and represent her country, she will. So it goes through the proper processes that allow for medical to deal with it, and and then passed on and shared what's needed with the coaching staff.
All right, coach. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lenny. Any other members of the media, please remember to raise your hand, and then we can get into other further questions that you may have for Coach Busby. Okay, Livingston Scott, good morning, sir. You can unmute and go ahead.
Yes, morning, Simon, morning, coach.
Morning, Mr.
Uh, yes, coach. Last 4 games have been good games. Performance in Peru also wasn't bad. This matchup against the Mexicans, just tell me, what are you looking for? What you looking to see with the improvement in the group? And how you see the challenge of this Mexican team that we're up against. First up to.
Yeah, I think this, we in our match planning and coaches planning, one of the things that we've acknowledged with this Mexican team, first of all, they've coming off the back of a U20 team that won the U20 title a couple of years ago. So a lot of those players have come through. They're a little bit more dynamic than I say the last World Cup qualifying team was that, well, didn't qualify rather, but where they've brought in a lot of good young players coming through. They're a little bit more dynamic. Like most Mexican teams, they'll look to play combination play, but they're not afraid to go direct as well, which obviously we'll have to deal with. But they're a good team. They've just come off a good tournament in Spain, where they also played Canada and China and Chinese Taipei. So we've been able to watch them and monitor them. A lot of good players. I do think what has really helped them a lot is their Mexican league. I think they've been able to grow their talent pool and allow for a lot of young dynamic players to come through and become pros early on. And so their domestic league has really helped sort of fast track what they're doing in Mexico. So credit to them for doing that. And again, like everything else, as I said earlier, when you're playing Mexico anywhere, especially in the U.S., men or women, wherever stadium you go to, chances are it's going to be a home game for them. So we have to kind of deal with all of that heading into these next 2 matches. It'll be a challenge, but it's a challenge that I know the players will be up for.
But I don't think you fully gave me what you're expecting from the team in terms of improvements that you are looking for, coach.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, for us, it's about going out there and improving on the performances from, as you said before, the last 4 matches. I mean, we have to continue to win or put in a good performance that allows us to win. Of course, the bottom line is all the time at the international level is to win football matches. So that's always the outcome. And I know that's what everyone always looks towards. But what necessarily what everyone wants on the end as terms of our country, in terms of our supporters, in terms of what we want, we get. But in terms of our objectives as coaches, is that we want to see improved performance on our playing model. We want to make sure that we're keeping clean sheets. We want to make sure that we're getting better in the areas of looking to be a little bit better in possession, which I think we've improved on in the last 4 matches. So overall, just improved performance is really the most important thing for us heading into these 2 matches.
Thanks.
And let's just ask, coach, the second set of friendlies this without Bonisha, is that a good thing for you, a bad thing that you would be able to build with her? Or is it good that you're able to put this group together and know where you will place her when she eventually comes in?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right there on the head. I mean, I've said it all the time. Every team is better with Bunny Shaw in it. We want Bunny in our teams. So yeah, we're a better team with her in it. With that said, if she's not in the squad, someone else has to step up, and they've done so. And we've gotten a lot of different scoring from different people, which is what we've been trying to do. Our playing model centers around a philosophy and not one person. So when she comes back in, whoever's playing in that position will be asked to do what Bunny does, and the same thing as well, in possession and out of possession. So yeah, we want her in the squad, but again, if it provides opportunities for other players to step up, and credit, they've done that. So may that continue heading into these games.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Jason Hall, go ahead.
Morning, Simon. Well, afternoon now, Coach and Simon. I had a question, read the squad. I forgive me if I'm repeating anything, but I was very impressed in the last window with the performances of Mimi Van Zanten. As I said, I wasn't here earlier, so you may have discussed this, but I did, as you may know, since I've been coming to these, I do track the players pretty much a lot, and I did see where Mimi was invited to an under 23 US camp, and I immediately got a little worried. So I just wanted you to speak to your communication with her as far as this window goes. I see Cameron is there with her, so I just wanted to see if you could shed any light on that situation for us.
Yeah, I mean, look, I had a conversation with Mimi and her family a couple of weeks ago. Mimi is technically still a youth player. So I think it goes without saying that, she's been, um, identified as a quality player for both programs. I think for us, she knows how much we value her. I gave her debut in front of 30,000 people in Brazil in what would have been soon to be the Brazilian or the Olympic bronze medalist. And she played 2 games in Peru. So she knows where we feel. I know where she is with her family as well. I think when you're dealing with a lot of dual nationals, and we'll see it, I think there's a lot of different pulls in different directions for different reasons, of which only she can speak of. All I can know is speak about the conversation I had with her and her family that was very positive. And at the end of the day, I'm very confident that this is where she'll be. But at the end of the day, we also want players to ensure that when they make that final decision of where they want to be, it is what's right for them. And I know that doesn't always sometimes align with what our goals are, but I think for the most part, I mean, it works out in the end. I try not to get too overly caught up in that because the reality is I've got players contacting me sometimes from other countries as well. And so it works both ways. And so I think all we can do is continue to provide a really good environment for them when they come in, by allowing them to grow. But again, with dual nationals, there is a pull different ways that whether we like it or not, they have to be able to go through that process themselves. But yeah, like I said, we wish her the best, and we hope that obviously come the next camp, that she's back with us, because obviously these are friendly matches before she has to make a final decision for the next game.
Thanks, Coach. And my follow-up to that is you just mentioned it about the Mexican League, really helping and aiding their program to go further. What would be your ideal situation with the Jamaica Women's League? Obviously, we're talking about differences in financial ability and things of that nature, but just in order to get that league up and running, how much do you think that can help you and the team moving forward if we can raise the level of play in that particular league as well?
Yeah, I think and that's a whole other day of a Zoom call of a conversation. But I think where we have to first look at is grassroots level, and we have to get and expand the grassroots level for young girls and providing them opportunities to play, to develop. I mean, that's where it starts, right? It's a lot different. So we have to expand the grassroots level and understand that the Women's Premier League, it's going to take some time to get where it should be. So credit to everyone who's gotten to where it should, but it's going to take time. I think the coaching standards have been addressed, so that's good. I think the infrastructure, like everything else, whether it be men's Premier League, women's Premier League, it's a team around the team, so the resources that go into developing holistically a player that they can then go on. So facilities, equipment, medical, GPS, all the things that are tracking players that we know, or we can have a measurement in place to see just how far they're coming along. Injury prevention, nutrition. There's a lot of different things that need to go into it. So if I would say right now, the Women's Premier League and games I've seen would be things that allow for the structure around the teams to be supported a little bit better. And some doing well, some are not quite there, like you said, because of financials. So it's going to take some time. They're off to a good start. I think they've restructured it. So let's give them some time and see what happens. as I've always said to everyone, the powers that be, I'm a resource here whenever they want to kind of go through. I've come through both the Canadian US system, understand what those things look like, and been a part of professional leagues in the US and in Canada. So whatever I can do to help and support that, I will. But I think we really need to kind of focus and ensure that we're providing opportunities for young players to play football, young girls to play football, and are supporting them in a holistic manner that allows for them to come through the system. But yeah, I think it's not just one thing. It's going to be a lot of different things collectively together at the same time. So we're probably around 3 to 5 years away minimum before we start seeing that. But I think we're on a good path, and may that continue.
Okay, thanks a lot, coach.
Thank
And
you.
good luck in the games.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you very much, Coach Busby, and thank you to the members of the media for being here this morning. This recording will be sent out quite shortly, so you'll have access to it for your respective sports bulletins. Have a pleasant rest of the day and weekend ahead. Thank you, everybody.